Okay, my friends, here is another key thing that I do, which, by the way, all the things that you're seeing here, I do. Um, I don't suggest anything to you guys that I don't either do, um, or like in the case of the food bank, have done in the past, and, you know, basically rose to a level where I don't qualify for that anymore. So understand that none of this is theory for me. All of this is real life practice that I am literally seeing wealth being built from. Now, what we're going to talk about here is pretty easy. Everyone's situation is going to vary a little, but here's we'll dig into that. Here's the faceplate of this. Get yourself a credit card that gives you a kickback on points or money. Now stop right there. Hang on. There's a million out there. However, you want to look for ones that have zero fees because it isn't much good for you to get a credit card that gives you a kickback, pennies on the dollar, or points for purchasing if you have to pay for it. Because then, to a degree, the very points that you're earning, the very kickback that you're getting, if not all of it, at least some of it, is going right back into the fee. Therefore, I recommend a card that I actually use, which is the Amazon Rewards Visa card. It looks just like this. It's navy blue. This is the one that I use. I think if you are a Prime member, it looks just like this, but it's silver, I think, or like a gunmetal silver. Anyways, I love this card. I use it for every single purchase that I do. Any purchase that I can link up to this, I do it. If I could link my utilities to it, I would. And if I could link my Roth IRA weekly contribution to it, I would. Here's why. What these cards do, if you're unclear, is they give you money for using their card. Similar to a Roth IRA, similar to a high yield savings, for doing business with them, you get paid. That's a little abstract, but understand you put money in to the market with a Roth IRA and active index funds pointed towards the S&P 500. You put $1,000 in. Just for putting your $1,000 there, for putting your business, your earnings there, you get money for that. Your money earns money. Same thing with a high yield savings account. For putting your money in a high yield savings account, you get paid for doing that. Your money in that high yield savings earns money. Similarly here, for using your Amazon Rewards Visa card, your money earns money. So, you go to the store, you buy some stuff that the food pantry does not provide to you. Like for me, that's usually almond milk and yogurt. Let's say my bill for buying those two items is $10. You can do one of two things. You can either pay and not get a kickback, meaning when you pay with cash, $10 is $10, transaction is done, you walk out of the store with your stuff, you go home and continue to live your life. Same exact thing with your debit card. It's $10, you run your debit card, you get charged $10, you walk out of that store, you go on living your life. With the Amazon card, your tab is $10, you run your card for $10 to pay for your items, but you just made 2% back. or 1% back, or 3% back. It just depends on where you purchased it at. Restaurants, gas stations, drugstores, all other purchases, 3% on Amazon. So my point is, if you're earning 1% on $10, or even better 2%, or even better 3%, that may not be a real big deal for a one-time purchase of $10. But what about when you go get gas later that day? What about the next day when you buy your partner dinner? What about the next day when you buy Ableton? What about the next day when you go to buy Christmas gifts? You're getting a kickback on every single thing that you buy. And that percentage is just building and building and building. And here's what I do. I've gotten it to a point now, guys, where I don't even pay for Christmas gifts. What I mean by that is, at the end of the year, when we get around the holidays, the amount of points, the amount of percentage that I have earned just for using this card instead of using my debit card or cash builds up so high that I don't even pay for Christmas gifts. So the amount that otherwise would have come out of my pocket years ago to buy people gifts for Christmas are now basically free, all because I decided to use this credit card instead of a debit card or another credit card or cash. They give you money for free for using their card. I also have another one. I have two, and I will caution you in a minute against that and the balance of that, but just so you know, as a backup, I have this exact card, the Citi Double Cash Card. You earn 2% cash back on purchases, 1% when you buy, and 1% as you pay. I'm happy that that was highlighted because we need to talk about that for a minute. This also, no categories, no caps, no annual fee. You do not want to get a card that gives you points or cash back if there's an annual fee. Why would you pay for something that gives you cash back or points back only to have to give those points or cash back to them to pay for the card that you have? It makes no sense. So the key to a lot of these cards to earn 2% on purchases. So basically what I like to tell people is 2% of $1. There's 100 pennies in a dollar. Therefore, 2% of a dollar is 2 cents. Doesn't seem like much, but add that up over the course of a year, 5 years, 10 years. You've earned a lot of money for free, okay? 2 cents back on every dollar. So everything that's a dollar is actually 98 cents if you want to think of it that way. That's just the way my brain more or less averages it out. But here's the catch on this, guys. Whether you get the Citi Double Cash Card, the Amazon Rewards Visa Card, or both like I have, just in case there's ever an issue and I'm traveling, I at least have 2 different ways to get points. You have to pay these off in full every single month. Okay? So you have to understand that these credit cards cannot be used and abused, and you can't get into having an overhanging balance that you can't pay down and get into credit card trouble. That's the only catch in not earning those points. But that is true. Well, let me just say this. If you want your points, you got to pay it off. Okay? They make it very clear right here. 1% when you buy and 1% as you pay. I believe the clause for both of these cards are, if you do not pay your monthly balance off in full, you do not earn that 1% on the back end. So even though it's marketed as 2% cash back, it's 1% when you buy, and this is where they get you because most people are irresponsible with their money, and it's 1% after you pay it off. So if you get into credit trouble and you get behind on these payments, do not think, you've been warned by me, do not think you're earning 2% cash back, la-di-da. Everything is butterflies and rainbows. Everything is butterflies and rainbows if you have the cash in your bank account to pay this card off every single month. Okay? That is how I do it. I did not get these cards right away. I built up my bank account to the point where I know that instead of running my debit card everywhere I go, I have more than enough money in my bank account so that I can basically throw my debit card away. Now, I didn't do that. I put it in a drawer, but I'm saying no longer use it and instead switch over to a card that pays me to use it. And even if I max that card out in a month's time for my payment cycle, I am good to pay it down in full and that card is re-upped. I can do it all over again the next month because I have enough of a cash flow in my bank account to do that. Don't go out and get a credit card with a credit limit of $2,000 when you only have $300 in your bank account. Swipe, 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 buy groceries, make all kinds of points. Oh, I'm getting paid to use this card. And then within a month realize you owe them $2,000, but you only have $300 in your bank account and you can't pay that down. Because guess what? Now you don't get those points because you can't pay it off in full. These cards are only advantageous if you can pay it off in full. So if you get a credit line on one of these cards for $2,000 or whatever the case may be, let's just stick with $2,000. I would say have $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in your bank account. So at the end of the month, if you did max that out, you have more than enough to pay it off. But you should know what you buy in a month, what your average purchases are, to be okay. If you don't know that, you need to go back and calculate that. Like, I know on an average month, not during the holidays or not during a time where I take a random trip, on an average month, I only do about half my credit limit on my Amazon card. So it's rarely ever maxed out, and even if it is, it's no big deal. The card just gets declined, and then you go on the app and you pay it off. But under normal circumstances, I do not get anywhere near the maximum limit of my card. So I know that I have more than enough on the card, actually twice as much, right? Because I only get to about halfway. So if there's an emergency on a normal month, I'm good, and I'll still get paid for it. But I know that I'm not living on a tightrope of I max out my Amazon card, I dump all my money in my bank account into my Amazon card, which means I have no money in my bank account, but I'm still working, so I get a paycheck, I max out my Amazon card, I have to take all the money I just earned and empty my bank account to pay it off. No, don't do that. Have more than enough money in your bank account, know what you spend in a month, and as you swipe that card to start getting paid to use a card rather than just paying cash or a debit card, understand that at the end of that month, I have it on auto pay. I don't even know. I have it on auto pay. It gets pulled out of my bank account. I get the points. No big deal. So get paid to spend with these kind of cards, but understand what you likely spend in a month. Understand that you better have double, triple, if not better than that, in your bank account, so when that bill comes for this card, you have the money to auto pay it off, and you're not at the end of a tightrope every single month. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. If you really want to make it easy, it's not very detailed, but have your crap together. Have your ducks in a row. Get a card like this. It's great. It gives you a kickback every time you use it. But have enough money in your bank account to pay it off every month. But you should know every month what you're spending. You should know how much your groceries are. You should know what, whatever your living situation is. You should know what you're spending every month so that you know that this card can cover it. And you should have enough money in your bank account to pay that card off that's covering your expenses, if that makes sense. So I have two, but I really only use one. I have two in case there's an emergency. Like I said, the Amazon Rewards card, and I also have the Citi Double Cash card. I rarely use both. I use one. In the event of an emergency, I have another credit line that I rarely use that I can also earn cash back on. Now, if I were able to link this to my Vanguard account for my IRA, I would, because think about it. If you're making a weekly contribution to your IRA, with the end goal every year of maximizing your IRA at $6,000, wouldn't it be nice if every week working towards that $6,000 came out of a card that paid you to do that? So that's the kind of nice double stacking that I wish could happen, but it doesn't. But wouldn't that be cool? You're chipping into your IRA, so that money's going to be earning money on top of itself, but you're also making that contribution from a card that pays you to do that. But it doesn't work that way. Vanguard requires you to be hooked up to your bank account, obviously, because it's a major financial institution. It wants to be directly connected to your bank account, which is true for most utilities as well. It'd be great if I could get a kickback every month from my water bill and my gas bill and my electric bill, but most utility companies want to be connected directly to your bank account. So you don't earn cash back on that kind of stuff, but that's okay. Get these, use them for when you're gassing up the car, use them for when you're buying a bike or buying Ableton or buying a laptop. And like I said, at the end of the year, you'll have some healthy points built up or some healthy cash kickback sitting there. Use it for whatever you want. Christmas gifts, your next purchase on Amazon, whatever it is, guys. So get to work on all of that. I'll see you in the next video.